the Rangers Quarter Finals.
Well, good evening everybody and welcome to Rangers Journal Podcast. I'm your host Scott Mackay. Jose Mourinho says on the 13th of March that the final was in Bilbao and he didn't know why, but Roma were down to 10 men within 5 minutes. UEFA gave us a referee last night that was banned earlier on in the season in his own country because of poor mistakes. Last night he couldn't see a shirt getting tore off Desser's back, and it's cost us a place in the semi-final. Joining me to dissect the match is Doug and Mark. Doug, come to you first. How are you, mate?
Good man, thanks yourself.
Aye, not bad at all, not bad at all. Mark, how are you, pal?
Aye, all good, mate. Disappointed. What could have been, but as you say, probably next 45 minutes we'll get to clear our heads, hopefully, and get to see a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
A wee therapy session, mate. It never goes.
Definitely.
Never a bad thing.
No.
So on the night, we're going to really get into this match and do a good old Rangers Journal breakdown on what actually happened. There will be a tactics show coming out on it. We're just going to look at kind of the game overall, where it went wrong. Firstly, though, let's get elephant in the room out the way, lads. Doug, we should have had a penalty and Bilbao should have been down to 10 men last night.
Yeah, it's a sore one. That I can understand them maybe not seeing it at the time. I can understand the referee perhaps not seeing it, but I don't understand how VAR haven't stepped in there. It's such an obvious one. You see the shots, stretch out into so thinly because Dessers is totally getting away from the guy. And then, obviously, I put it in the thumbnail for the pod tonight. Like, you just see then Dessers' shirt is absolutely destroyed. The sponsor totally removed, and I don't see how anyone could be looking at after the fact and not thinking that should be looked at.
See, in terms of why it wasn't given, Doug, do you think it's because the keeper came out very quickly and retrieved the ball? Do you think what could have been the reasons that we didn't get a penalty?
From the VAR perspective, I genuinely can't think of one. The only, again, like say from the referee's perspective, the game's moving quickly. I can understand how the shirt could pull, snap away, and sort of that happened without him seeing it. Dessers goes down slightly late, because he's pulling to get away. So there is maybe a bit of the refs thinking, oh, he's way far ahead of that guy. There's no way he's taking him down in terms of a tackle. So again, I can understand from the referee's point of view why he might not see it. It's the VAR that I just don't get, because they should be rewinding that and going, well, quite clearly there's a shirt pull there. The ref should look at that, because even if you give the ref the second chances, sometimes they let shirt pulling go a little bit if it's just a small tug or whatever. And you can argue that there's not enough there to actually make them fall down per se. But all that's technically irrelevant because pulling a shirt is a foul, so it still impedes them from getting to the ball.
Yep. Mark, Jose Mourinho did warn us about this, that this could potentially happen. We get given a referee that's got a bad rep against Rangers. He's certainly not a good referee in my opinion. What's your thoughts on the whole kind of situation last night and what damage did it do against for us?
I think it's massive in the context of the game when it happens. How we can't even go and look at it. I think if you look at the two legs overall, and the one on Sterling, right, that he gives, but we don't get the same one last night. So don't get a shot pull. There's not enough in it, whatever. But not even to look at it, and then there's a handball. Now it changes the concept of the game. It's no the boys no then getting sent off for the handball, whatever. But you then get a penalty, and I think that's what's probably more galling for Rangers fans. I don't think we played well on the night. I don't think we did. I don't think over maybe the two legs we did maybe deserve it. But big moments at big times change games. 12 minutes in, Robin Proper off. Penalty last night. You're looking at it and going, it'll be interesting. I'll watch the next game. I think they've got Man U now after that and see how poorly the referee sort of goes with that game. But unfortunately, I think we're sort of sitting here going, Mourinho was right, called it 3-4 weeks ago. And I think that's the thing for us. Maybe they didn't do enough on the night, but when are we going to get the rub of the green? 3 big games this year, 3 massive decisions. Cup final against Celtic, penalty, don't get it, lose the cup. Semi-final Europa League. I'm sure there was one other big one that we did. Europe, wasn't it? Dynamo Kiev, how you can send Jeffy off for a jump. I know we're going to get to Jeffy, but nobody will ever be able to tell me that's a red card. So that stops you getting to Champions League. Put you out of Europe and stop you win the cup.
That last night was nothing short of appalling. In what you guys say there about the call in the first leg with Stu John Sterling as well, there's something not right with it. There's something not right with it. And I'm not the biggest Man U fan. I don't really like Man U, but I hope they pump Bilbao out of competition now, to be brutally honest with you. That's just the way I'm feeling tonight. Firstly, we'll look at tactics, lads. Doug, I want to come to you first. We'll not look at the foot mob ratings yet. What do you think about the team heat map?
Well, I think it points out the big glaring issue that we have in that game. There's absolutely nobody in that central attacking area at all. Dessers has obviously dropped really deep. Now that's understandable in the first leg when obviously we went down to 10 men and he has to drop deep so that he can come in to cover spaces in the midfield when they have to move. But when we're at 11 men, you need your striker to help push you further forward and help stretch the space. There was a really perfect, just totally randomly happened to see, it was either this morning or last night, a short that had Petr Cech in it. And he was talking about Mourinho telling him that he doesn't need to worry about being a goalkeeper that's able to play with his feet too much because they had Drogba. And you can knock a high long ball to Drogba. Drogba will win that ball sort of 7 or 8 times out of 10 and hold it, and that's your team straight away into the top third, straight away into the box, even if you've got a good enough kick, which Cech did tend to have. And then your team can push up and rally around that player. And that's what we miss. That's the big thing that we miss with Dessers, because most of the time he's had 1 or 2 games where he's done it well. The Man United game is the most recent one that comes to mind. But generally, that's just not Dessers' game. It's why a lot of people want to see Egerman, because he looks like he'll be better at it. And it's something that we could really have used last night, because there was points during the game, particularly in the first half, where we were getting really pinned in and the team were kind of just dropping deeper and deeper. And if we just had someone that could just say to themselves, right, I'm going to drop a bit up the pitch and try and let the goalie or the defenders hit me, so that we could get a little bit of relief, get a little bit of release out from that defensive position.
Aye, definitely, mate. Definitely. To me, there's nothing there I can disagree with. I think you look at the heat map and there's virtually nothing up front, and in the centre there's absolutely nothing. There's no options. There's no outball there. Mark, I'm going to come to you now on the average possessions. The average possessions are generated. I think this was generated through FootMob that Doug get this from. That's too negative, isn't it? Whether it's home or away. I mean, you could probably look at it in the home leg as well in the first 10 minutes if there was a such thing, and it will probably be something similar. But
there's no outball. They'll try to suffocate the midfield. I get that, but even like Dessers being number 9 there, that's probably been his optimal position. It's not even in the middle of the park. It's not even centrally. I like. Look, everybody's got their opinions, and I know we've got loads of great things coming up in the journal, and I'm really looking forward to them with managers and coaches and how we're going to play and what's next for the team. So I don't really want to steal too much of that. I think I've been involved in football, and I'm involved in football still at a decent level previously, and I'm at it now. Last night, I think Barry got something fundamentally wrong. I think in his head, his one big decision is, do I play Barron or do I play Hadji? And he went with Hadji, and when the injury comes to Ridvan, his thought was, right, well, Barron was going to be nearly team, and he made a split decision, which he got fundamentally wrong. I like Barry. I wouldn't be opposed to him getting a job. I've said that on this openly. I think we're going to have so much change in the back room with everything else that's happening. I don't know if we need to throw another new manager into that mix. I don't know if it's back to basics for us. But I just think he had in his head last night, am I going to play Hadji? Am I going to play Barron? And when that situation came up, I think we can all agree. I thought Diomande was doing well. He ended up out of left back, and the swap at that point in that time, I know hindsight's wonderful, was Enciala comes on, Cav goes to the right, and we keep as we are. But he didn't. He made the change, and we made 3 substitutions basically for the one change. Barron came in, and Jeffy went into the back 3, and Dio went wide left, and Hadji sort of dropped in, and it just didn't work, unfortunately. That didn't work. I think that went against us a wee bit, but I think it was just in his head that it was going to be between Hadji and that split second decision was, right, well, Barron was closest to playing out of everybody else. I need to get Barron on, and then we made all the changes, and I thought we were so disrupted in that wee period when we made the change. I don't think we quite understood where we would have been. I think ultimately out with the referee. I think as you said, Scott, we're no in here and we're not looking at conspiracies and all that. We need to look at ourselves first, look at yourself in the mirror first. And I thought that was one of the things, unfortunately, for us last night. It got wrong, unfortunately. So it killed them. We didn't have much momentum because you never had MD to hit, but it killed us a wee bit, I thought.
Doug, the biggest thing I've took away from what you guys have said is there's no outball. It's not Cyril Dessers' game. It's not. He can't play like that. He played like that against Fenerbahce away. It's everything you want to see for Rangers number 9. He'd done it that night. But I think he is front left there on the average position marks.
Yeah.
Like, do you think a change in system or something was needed last night, or what would you have done differently if you were Barry over the 2 legs?
It's a good question. I mean, I personally have been banging the drum of having a bit more courage and playing Dessers and Egerman together to get the benefit of both of the skill sets that they have. I still think that Dessers is the one that's probably more likely to score a goal in terms of how they're performing right now from general play. Egerman's kind of, he had his purple patch mid-season when he kind of dipped again, and he's kind of getting 1 or 2 here and there. Whereas obviously Dessers is one of the things Dessers is good at is he'll score regularly, or does score regularly throughout the year. Obviously his thing is that he needs a lot of chances to potentially do it. Occasionally he's not as clinical in the big times, and we know that Egerman's he's got a screamer in him now and again, and in big games as well. He's come on in big games and looked good. And I just kind of feel like if you could take some pressure off of Dessers and just say, look, you be the one, you just try and get yourself out of the box and do what you're good at, which is finding spaces and finding yourself in a position to score. That Barry said that publicly. That's what he likes about Dessers, is that when he was asked about Dessers missing chances, he said, well, I like that he's always there to get the chances and to make the effort. And then pair that with Egerman's ability to hold up the ball, run and create with those around him. Because I feel like, because you've got Cherney there as well, he didn't have the best of games. We also didn't really get the ball out to him. He's the other person that we'd look to kind of get out with, and we didn't get an awful lot from him. And I feel like if you've got Egerman on the opposite side, you're causing teams trouble in terms of, right, well now we can go either side and try and make some movements there. The big decision about putting Barron on, I actually think I've been thinking about this a lot over the last sort of 12 hours. We talked about it a lot in our tactics chat on the pod as well. And ultimately, I think it comes down to what is probably a bigger issue club-wise that we want to look at. Because it's similar to what my concern was is Enciala ready to go into such a big game with such pressure, especially at the time that the substitution was, because Athletic were pressing the most at that point. And I just think Barry didn't think he didn't have enough faith in him to put him on. He's only got 15-ish first team matches in his whole career. He's never played like a professional European game before. So putting him into such a big game at such a crucial time, I just think he maybe didn't have the faith in him. And I've kind of come round a bit to thinking that that would have been the right decision as well. I understand what he was trying to do. Diomande has played at left mid for Northland, so it wasn't like he wasn't putting him in a completely unknown position. Jeffrey should be able to play as a wider centre back. It's not hugely different to being a full back. But you are shuffling multiple parts there when you could have just shuffled one, which would have been Ciala into the back and Tav out to a position where, and let's face it as well, Tav remains one of our better attacking players as well. So putting him out into a slightly more attacking position may well have given benefit to us in terms of, again, trying to get the ball out there as well. Tav created the most chances in the match out of anyone on the pitch, including the Athletic players. And that was from, starting the game at centre-back position. So I do think that, Mark's right. That was the key decision. And the team floundered for a little bit after that. It's not necessarily directly responsible for the goal. That was just unfortunately a poor tackle, but it may have been a result of the confusion and pressure of the time.
Yep, definitely. For me, Danilo, Mark, I'm going to come to you on Danilo a wee minute, because I think in terms of link-up play, in piecing Rangers together, I think Danilo is a big part of that when he plays. I think he's very good at combination play. And I think in terms of us getting the ball up the pitch last night, that would have been a better option than Hadji or Dessers or even Czerny. Czerny was mince last night. They were all mince, to be honest. But what's your thoughts on, should Danilo be getting more game time?
I think now, I think he should be. I think his link-up play is very good. I remember I went through a wee spell in the season where Dessers did they play maybe 4 or 5 games, I think, and Danilo and Danilo and Iggerman linked up very well, and even Jeffrey doing overlapping runs and that sort of a work. One last thing on the last night's game, Doug, and you just touched on it slightly. See, I think it's 46 minutes or something, Hadji tries to take a quick free kick, and they end up breaking up, and that's where the penalty comes from. There was no need to take the ball. Just get out the way and let it go smashing. But I think our midfielders in that last night, because there wasn't an outball, there wasn't a Danilo to hold it and link it, every time it just went up, it came back. Dessers was either wrong side and it was under hit, or he wasn't in. I quite like him. I'm like Doug. I do quite like him. I think he does. He can be good. I know it's maybe Fenerbahce, Betis away. It's one in every 15 games or whatever we're getting a full performance out of him. But for me, Danilo, I would like to see Danilo from out the end of the season. I think we're at a point now where a few in the squad where we need to go, right, what have we got? Ciala, I thought he came on and looked very, very good, bargain at 37. See if that's the case, just play the boy. Just give him the next 5 games that we've got left of the split. Play him, play Bailey Rice, play Finlay Curtis. See if they're not going to be there next year and we already know they're going to go. Why play them? See if we get beat, we get beat. I know we don't want to get beat. We know we don't want to sit here or we get beat. But if we get a shining light out of it, like I thought Curtis done okay in Aberdeen. I thought Rice, he'll probably, I think I'm going to be surprised if he starts next week against St Mirren, to be honest, for me, and there'll be some changes in that. But Balogun, Proper, I don't see the point of, I'm not saying wasting time in them because that's wrong. They're still Rangers players, but we need to see what these boys can do now. That's what I think. Now that's where we are at the season. 5 games to go. Can we go and win the 5 of them? Can we go and win it with what we're going to have sort of a next year? I know Czerny maybe a high earner. If we're going to pay for him, we're not going to pay for him. See if he's not going to be here, I'm going to play him. I'd be playing 2 up front. See if you look at that team that we showed in the graphic. You could have played Hadji, played another forward and give you a link, two forwards together, and Czerny could have played in the hole behind, which would maybe be more effective. You can at least then see a heat map, you've got 2 up front. I think sometimes the way they played last night, Dessers gets a bit of a raw deal, but how isolated was he? How deep was she at getting asked to play? Because they were going to shuffle left and right as a 3, a 5 and a 2 and see where we can go. So, look, I think we all agree probably again, man, next season's going to be our starting number 9. We've got the obligation on Cortez. Is he going to play? I would just play them now. Let's see if they can get minutes. Let's see what they've got in their team. I know it's hard and you want to win every game. I get that, but there must be something there for a couple of them that we go and get something out. I think to try and get something positive towards the end of the season. That would be mine. Danilo for me. Give him a run of games. What is he? 27, maybe 20.
25.
Only 25. Dessers is 31. If we can get Danilo fit for another 6 games, up to speed, a good pre-season, is he going to be our number 9? It could be. Let's face facts. If we can get him, his injuries for Danilo for me have all been different. The boy smashed him against Hearts. I think he broke his jaw. Remember, he came back with a mask against St Johnstone. It's not been really muscle injuries or Achilles or anything like that. It's been impacty stuff that's really caused the issue with him. Maybe come back for his knee a wee bit early and wasn't up to speed. So, give him 6 games. Nobody's probably going to buy him. Dessler's probably done okay in Europe enough that his stocks maybe slightly higher. If somebody comes in, who you want to keep, a 25-year-old or because it's the injuries in it, that's probably where it goes. But for me, do you want somebody 25 in your squad, or do you want somebody 31, maybe turning 32?
It's not that. You've Danilo, in my opinion, is a better player than Dessers and he's younger. But that's just my opinion. That's not facts. I quickly want to move on to Mohamed Diamande, who I thought had a very good game last night when he was playing centre mid. Doug, I'm going to come to you first. I thought Diamande really, really stood out last night in terms of he was taking responsibility, he was trying to link play, didn't shy away from a tackle either. What was your thoughts on him?
I think he's gotten better since Barry's come in. A lot of us talked about under Clement, it feels like not only was he more reserved, and I think told to play that way as well, but was a little bit restricted maybe by Clement's like regimented system. You know, he wants people in positions doing certain things at certain times, and he doesn't really want people deviating from that, which is, you know, kind of the modern philosophy. It's the Pep Guardiola way to play, where you've got a very structured system, and you've maybe got that one quality player that's allowed to deviate. So for Pep, it's De Bruyne, who's still kind of one. Obviously, had Messi before that. The one player that can kind of break things if he wants to, because he's that player. For teams like us, you know, we're less likely to have, you know, we might have someone of that ilk in our team, but they're obviously not going to be to that level of quality. So the emphasis is really on the team to stick to that regiment. And I think that's maybe sort of reined Diamande in a bit, whereas under Barry he's looked a bit more expressive. Like you say, he's really good at like taking the ball, turning and getting us facing the right way, and you know, he can look out and see, right, what's going on, where can I put this, and you know, I think we've seen so much more of that under Barry Ferguson. He's been a little bit more aggressive as well. I thought he flew under the radar a little bit for that kind of stuff. Under Clement, he has always actually been reasonably decent at his tackling, and in particular in this game where he's had to be quite defensive. You know, he's got a lot of interceptions, defensive actions, 9 recoveries, 7 duels won there. You know, so he's obviously able to look after himself and get in and about the game. He was the most fouled player in the match as well. So that shows, you know, Team Athletic struggled to get the ball off him and ultimately are having to foul him. So I think he's got a bit about him, and in a more expressive side, I think we could yet see even more. He scored more frequently when he was with Northland, and I'd like to see him doing that with us. He's obviously got a shot on him, because when he first came in, he got a couple of decent goals from like the edge of the box. And again, that was something that I was quite excited about, because we don't have enough midfielders that do that. We still need to get, I think, a little more from our midfielders in terms of like the goals and assists. So I think he's someone that can definitely push on if you get the right manager, and I think that's going to be key for a few players in this squad, because there are a handful with talent in there that I would class as sort of like players like Diamande that I would want to A, keep, and B, would be excited to see in a more confident side and a more expressive side. And that'll all come down to picking the right person to manage them.
Mark, what about you? You getting to add to Diamande last night?
No, I thought it was good. I thought Doug touches a lot of very good points. He doesn't ever hide. He takes the ball very, very well in a half turn and breaks lines at times. I was quite see that. That's the first time I've probably looked at like stats like that, which I think's fascinating. His recoveries in duels won. He doesn't get as much credit probably as he should in that area. You know what I mean? See a lot of, I know his passing accuracy 78%, but how many times did he actually try and play the ball to Dessler's feet, and Dessler's was already on the half turn and the centre half took it away? We lost the ball about 5 or 6 times with it. He just wasn't there. So no, look, I hope Deal stays. I think he's a sort of with him, Raskin, Agamani. I think there's a sort of a players we want to just add a couple more to in it. I don't think after a defeat, I know you want to break everything up, but I don't think I'm not saying it's probably not as bad as we think. I don't think we're the right person in charge. I don't think we need to go and sign 15, 16, 17 players.
Aye, we've got a core there of talent, I would say. How good that talent is up for debate right now. Do you, Mark, quickly, do you think moving Diamande to left wing back hampered any kind of control that we could have got in that match last night?
Yep. I thought at that point he was on the half turn, he was playing wee triangles, he was keeping the ball. I think when we went out to that, and it was, I thought Barron struggled in there, and he doesn't keep the ball as well. I think he's good when it's harrying and then playing wee 5-yard passes, but unfortunately for Barron, a lot of his stuff goes back away inside the words. It doesn't go forward. Maybe it's just the way it was last night, but I think if you watch that, I think he's one of these ones, and Barry spoke about a few times, that he'll become better and better and better. But I thought we lost a bit, yeah. Because I thought we were well in the game until the substitution, and then we sort of went all over the place. And I think him coming out the middle was massive. It was absolutely massive.
Aye, definitely. It did drop an effect on the team. And hampered any kind of chances that we had to make it competitive, in my opinion. Before we go into Jeffy properly, Doug, and a Pully slide up, generally, what's your thoughts on Jeffy? Because you can be not harsh on him in the chat. I'd say everything you say about Jeffy is rationalised, if that makes any sense. You justify it. What's your thoughts on Jeffy right now?
I mean, he's a player with promise. There's obviously been rumours of bigger teams interested in him, and that doesn't happen if you're not showing at least something. Mm-hmm. He's got one thing that I think only Czerny has in the team, which is proper pace. None of the rest of the squad really have proper pace, apart from Cortez, I think, does as well, but obviously we've not really got to see that. But I don't necessarily think, again, I don't necessarily think we've made the best of that attribute with him. We don't. I don't think we've always seen the best of it. The main thing about him, I just want is more concrete numbers. So he's got 3 assists this season, which for me, for a Rangers fullback, isn't enough. Barisic last season had 6, and everyone said he was woeful. So if you're getting 6 assists and you're woeful, then if you're playing well, you should be getting at least that. I do think, as I say, I do think tactically, if we were to focus on using some of his better attributes, then we would get more out of him. So it's not entirely his fault. There was points earlier in the season when Danilo was playing where I want to say it was Hibs maybe. I think Danilo had just come back from one of his injuries, and he was doing these amazing, great runs all the way up to the byline and then cutting it back. And he would keep finding Danilo was getting into perfect positions for these cutbacks. And they made about 4 or 5 chances that way, which had Danilo not been freshly back, probably would have got a goal or 2. As it was, he didn't. But that kind of thing was really exciting. And I thought, I'd love to see more of that, because that's not something that we've done for a long time. Tav does do it sometimes, but less over the last couple of years, as he's obviously not running quite as much. Barisic obviously never did it. He was all about the crossing for deep. Redvan tends to kind of cross from deep as well, so it was something new, but I can't think of really seeing that at all in the latter half of the season. So that's something I'd like to see us focus on more, because that's his, I think, a really good skill set. He can get the ball, he can burst, and he can run. We got a couple of chances or at least one chance against Fenerbahce, where again he got the ball, he ran with it, and then he released Dessers, and Dessers was literally a toe offline, offside, sorry, from getting a goal. So I think there's plenty there that I would, if you were to ask me, should we keep him or sell him, I would say keep him, because I think, as much as I'm generally a fan of Yilmaz, I think he's a good player and potentially, if you take it all in, a better player than Jeffrey, but he's just not available enough. And we still have too many players that are just not available enough. Sterling, unfortunately, is in that category for me now as well. So I would be saying, yeah, let's keep Jeffrey, let's keep working on him, keep improving him, sell Yilmaz, bring someone else in. Because I do think that he's a player that we'll be able to get good money for if we can get another good season out of him and he keeps developing.
Mark, what about you? The Jeff Day bandwagon, it's it kind of trains come off the tracks for the Chelsea links in January. There is registered interest, not just from Chelsea. I'd imagine they want them for their company, if that makes any sense, because I think they've got 3 or 4 clubs, Todd Bowley. What's your thoughts on him? He's a 500k left back, but he's got 6 months experience in Cyprus. Let's caveat this, you know what I mean?
I think first season, young boy coming from a country never known, I think some of that takes its time. See, for me, it depends on the shape that we play, I think, right? See if you're going to play 4-3-3, right, which we know Dylan done a great breakdown on it last night and it could have worked. I would like to see Jeff to play higher. I don't think he's an offender. I would play him one up. See, like, one thing that we lack as a team is genuine pace. So see, for me, I would have him higher. I would actually have him higher in the game. Like, if you see it, like, as you see his heat map there, and if you look at that, like, his passing accuracy is decent, but maybe not enough passes. So was he just running last night up and down the line? I know he went into centre half, but if you look at that, 9 clearances, 4 headed clearances, 10 defensive actions. That's actually quite decent for a 0.5 thousand player. If Jules 1-1-3, good recoveries. I just think, for me, I think he's got all the pace in the world. We don't have somebody naturally left-footed with pace. If you're going to play that shape and he's going to tuck in and the ball goes into maybe where Danilo was better, Doug, and you spoke about it, where they link, it's sort of he made the third man run and it went round the corner to him. And he maybe has more assists if it's cut back and it's no Dessers and having one of his days where he puts it to the bar or hits the goalkeeper. I think that's got a lot of, when you talk about numbers, sometimes you can only put the ball in so many times until the forward keep missing. I like Jeff. Defensively, I think he falls under the Tav mould, to be honest, where he's maybe not great defensively, but he's just a young boy. I actually think he started his career as a winger, and he's only played out his handful of games that he's played. I think he's maybe played 50. I think he'd played 50 games or so since he came this season. Maybe maximum 100 games, maybe in his whole career in football. And I think he's played half at left back and half at left wing.
So, aye, some good points there.
I think I like him, as I say, but I think if Ridvan stays fit, or you go and maybe get a James Penrice. It's at Hearts, the boys at Livingston. I think it's a solid left back, and you're going to play a different way. I think Jeffrey could be a great out ball for us, which we don't have. And if that's Hadji playing there, unfortunately, I don't think you should get praise to going behind. And depending on who else can play there, I know football's all about get these natural Tierney's all left-footed plays in the right because you want to cut in and shoot. You would never do that with Jeffrey. So Jeffrey's thing would be get to the byline and then go and deliver. But if you're going to do that, you're needing to flood the box or more people to get in the box. So if Jeffrey went to the byline last night, how many times would he have put it in and somebody was in the box? So then he's having to turn out or turn back and then loses the ball and everybody's on Jeffrey's back because he's lost the ball again. But what's he do? Cross it into an empty box. Sometimes hard for some people. Sometimes hard to judge and you blame somebody else. But look, I like him. I think he'll develop. I think he's one that you could make a few million on. Even if you got 5 million for him, made 4.5. Many players as it went the other way that have maybe paid a wee bit of money and lost it on him. So I think there's definitely a player in there. I just think he needs the right management, and I'm hoping he understands it now. He's had the season. He understands what he's going to come up against. As I say, his back post, he was really poor, but he had a really brave header against Nisbet Sunday, against at the back post. He put his head in and he actually got hurt. But it's one of the ones in the past where I watched Barisic get like a bad nick in and score, or Tavernier watching Maeda do the same. And I thought Jeffy learned for that, to be honest. Tav does it last night as well, when he switches off. He's openly admitted that we sort of finished the game. But that's when we need to get him switched on. How do you keep him switched on and switched on and switched on? So I think there's definitely a player. I think even the 3-5-2, if he's going to play as your wing back, he's probably his best position, as opposed to an out and out left back.
Fair enough. He's an interesting player. He's an interesting player in terms of what you do with him going forward. Doug, what do you think is the appeal to a club like Chelsea coming for Jeff Taylor? I know it's a lot of scouting work's kind of data based and computerised and all that stuff now. What numbers is Jeff Day producing to gain that interest, if that makes any sense?
To be really honest, when it comes to Chelsea, I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea have no interest in him as a player, but have every interest in him in a he was 500k. We'll be able to get him for a couple of million off Rangers because they're only in Scotland, but then we'll be able to sell him for 15, 18, 20 if we build him up a bit, train him up a bit. Part of me wonders if it's actually a bit more to do with that, but that's maybe being cynical, maybe being cynical and be unfair to Jeffy. As I say, he was playing really well at that point in the season. As I say, his pace is a really good attribute. He's good on the ball. Although he does get caught out, he is a good header of the ball as well. When he's actually defending from things like corners and things like that. So. I think some people give him a bit of a raw deal defensively. Yes, he has his frailties, in particular that kind of ball over the top kind of thing. But, I mean, Barisic had that to a degree as well. There's a little bit of it that I think is down to the system because obviously our fullbacks are advanced fullbacks. And a lot of the times when you see them getting beaten by these balls, it's on a quick turnaround and a player who's got the ability to knock a really quick and long ball when the fullback are still coming back and there's that space behind them. Now, those are things that you can kind of help to coach as well. And obviously, Chelsea have got world-class coaches that will be able to work on that with him in terms of positioning, keeping your eye out, scanning for players, because that's the type of thing that, particularly for young players, you want to teach them early. Because that's the other thing as well. He is still very young, so he's still very teachable. So they'll be looking at him going, right, this is a really cheap player who's coming in. These teams down south, they do look at Rangers and Celtic, who are obviously big clubs playing in Europe, so our players are getting exposed to a good level of football. I doubt they're looking hugely at how he plays against St Mirren and Hearts and things like that. Well, maybe Hearts and some of the higher teams, but the majority of it will be looking at the European games. And obviously we've been very good in Europe, and he's been on the whole pretty good in Europe as well. So they'll be looking at that going, right, he can play at a high level, he can play for a big club with a lot of pressure. So therefore they can say make some money out of that and basically do what we want to do, which is we want to train him to get that little bit better to bump up his value.
Aye, definitely, mate. Definitely. I'm just going to bring up the passing. I like to speak to you about the passing first before I bring up the passing comparison stats. Now, Mark, I'll come to you on this first because we've not been able to pass a ball to each other for Stevie Gerrard. Right, that's just my general opinion in terms of passes completed, combination play, not necessarily. When you Gerrard's style was more possession based, I would say. than what Gio, come on, Bill had. How can we not string a few passes together? But sometimes, let's see the amount of times the ball got given away last night through daft passing. It's ridiculous, and I think it's something that really needs addressed in the summer, doesn't it? You're on mute, mate.
Since Gerrard, I don't really think we've had any great passages of play or styles. I think if you actually look at it, there's probably games where we've had a high passage rate, but many of that was between our two centre backs, and it went to a right back, and it wasn't only under Gerrard and under Gio. Sorry, talk about the horseshoe. It was known at right back, we'd come back out and you go back across. So you look at, so you get great passing stats, but there's none's penetrating. At least under Gerrard. See, under Gerrard, we attacked. Whether it was Brandon Barker, who was playing at times, and aim for the pass, but we had a clear identity. It was get wide, get into the box, cut it back, have a shot, flash it across the box. Right now, I think sometimes we look devoid of ideas, and we don't do things with it. We have good moments in it, or good passages of play. Come on this more direct and get in behind it. But under Gerrard, I thought we Arfield and Jack and people like that. I don't think Arfield's any better or Jack's any better than Raskin or Diamande. So how can you still play that same style or try and get the ball down and make passes? But the amount of times we lose that unopposed, that's the big thing for me. There's a couple last night, not even under any pressure. Or we do it, you watch it and it should be played in front of you. I'll use Jeffy. It should be played in front of Jeffy for Barron, and it's played and he has to check. By the time he checks, the defenders came another 3 yards closer to him, whereas if that ball's to him in front where he can go on and then go and drive, we don't do that. A lot of mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes, and unopposed mistakes, I think, at times, which is detrimental and kill us.
Doug, see to me, I'm looking at. Thanks for making this slide up, by the way. It's dynamite. I'm looking at Gerrard's game against Lech Poznan, and we had 37 crosses all in. Or was it 17 crosses? I'm not sure if this is this
17.
17, right? Okay. So 519 passes. The main reason I wanted to get at this tonight is because the pass completion and the style and the way Rangers are representing themselves on the park just now. To me, we have not been able to play a possession-based game. I'm not asking us to do it all the time, but we've not been able to play a possession-based game since Gerrard. Under Gio wasn't too bad. It was sort of similar, but Gio was, I called him a tinker man. He was constantly changing formations. Clermont, long balls constantly. Ferguson's the same, long balls. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a really quick, sort of really surface look. So there's only one game from each, but I've tried to kind of equalise them as best possible. So they're all Europa League games. They're all from the group stages. They're all home matches, and they're all games that we won, and that I thought we played pretty well in. So I tried to kind of make it as even with the time I had to put it together. And I do think, I mean, you can see, like, when you look at the short passes, Gerrard played in his game, has got far more short passes, especially if you compare it to Clermont, where you're starting to get to the realms of half the amount of short passes, 452 to 277. There's a massive difference there. And Barry has obviously changed that, so he's gone back up to having 400 plus. So there's an obvious change in that. And one of the big problems I think we've had recently is the connection between the three sections of the pitch. So your defence, your midfield, and your attack, and the gaps that are between them. Sometimes we see huge gaps between these sections of the pitch, which then stops you from being able to play these types of short passes as you're building. And as you say, the alternate to that will be playing things like long balls. And this is where I think Clermont struggled the most domestically. Why he struggles so badly domestically? Because one of the ways that if we're going to be playing against teams that are playing two banks of four, or a back, in fact, more often than not, it's been a back five with a midfield 3 or 4 in front of that. If we're going to have strong defensive teams, which most SPL clubs are, in front of us like that, then you need to be able to play quick, intricate passing with more technical players, that's the advantage we have. We can afford more technical players, better overall players than the majority of the league, and that's what we should be using to leverage as our leverage and as our way to beat them. Because if you're going to have all those banks, you have to play either bulldoze your way through, if you're going to play like hammer throwers, or you use your skill and your speed and your better mental acuity. So, better players are mentally more attuned. They can think faster while they're on the pitch. They can see a pass or two ahead of where they are right now. And that's what we need to use, and what Clermont, the team under Clermont, really didn't. Because if you can do that, if you can make yourself into sort of good triangles or good squares of players and passing the ball about and have the players moving and fluid positionally, then you will start to pull those defenders out of their positions. They'll, because they're not quite as mentally astute perhaps as our players, won't see passes that will develop, won't see gaps forming, and that's how you'll get in and score goals and ultimately win games. And our problem has been that we're not making these short passes, we're not playing intricately, and so these teams can just sit back and be like, right, that's grand, I've got a bank of 5 here, I've got a bank of 3 here, I've got my big front man that I can knock it to if we do get the ball, and they're just being quite comfortable. And then to make matters worse, when we became so defensively frail, and these teams gained confidence, they were like, you know what, we can do all this, and we can do it a step further up the pitch and counter-attack, and we'll get 2 goals up in the first half. And so that's what we need to turn around. So I do totally agree with you. We need to get back to that kind of passing style of play where we can break teams down. We need to inject more quickness into the team, not necessarily just in terms of pace, but in terms of the mental ability to think, as soon as I've got the ball, where am I going to do it? The best midfielders in the world know exactly where they're going to pass it before the ball even gets to them, because they've already looked, they've already went, oh, Hadji's over there, Dessus is sitting there, Cherney's got to run in behind. If I get this ball, gets it, hits that ball to Cherney, and Cherney's in, and you've got an opportunity. So that's what we need to work on, and that's what we need to look for in the players that we're buying. A bit more speed and a bit more strength, and the ability to pass the ball quicker and with more intention as well.
Aye, definitely. For me, I'm a bit old-fashioned in the sense that you never see a winger skinning a fullback anymore. That's another way to create space, is just skin your opponent. It's not easy done, but it's one of the basics of football.
And we've struggled by pretty much only having one wing as well, because our primary left winger has been injured the entire time, and we're having to fit Hadji and Barami or Egaman or whoever in there, all of whom can play the role, but they're not as good as someone who's an out-and-out winger would be. And so, that's hampered us as well, because basically I think a lot of our attacks will come from that right side, because you've got our best 2 creative players on that side. They are first and second in the league for chances created. And I think that makes us easier to defend against as well, because teams can go, well, you've got Cherney and Tav there, that's their best creative players, so we'll keep an eye on this side. We don't need to work so hard on the left.
Mark, could you make your AS? You're on mute, Mark.
Sorry, guys. I think you're right. I think there's, if you see under Clermont, it was no short passes, so we're happy to go long ball, but we don't, to cut teams open and to do these things, it's about speed of thought and how quickly. Sometimes I think we take too many touches and we're scared. NCR done it great last night. He likes to fizz it for the back right into the forward. He likes to hit your forward feet, or he plays into the park at times, which I quite liked, to be honest. But as you're saying it, that's why I like we're one-dimensional, aren't we? We go down one side all the time. Tierney's going to cut inside. If Tierney doesn't cut inside, our other option is Tav then goes round him and puts a cross in. That's what we do. As you spoke about earlier on, Diomande, Raskin, Barron. I can't really put Bailey Rice in it because you've not played a lot of games, but many of them shoot. Many of them actually shoot for the edge of the box.
Aye, I know.
None. They don't shoot. Diomande was. I know. When's the last time he scored for outside the box? Diomande, possibly Hearts. After about 50, 60 seconds, one of the games. I think we ended up winning the game 4-1 last year. But we don't. We look so one-dimensional with it. There's nothing. It's nothing quick, and then try and release somebody. I don't think there's a fear factor that used to be there under Gerrard, where teams sat in so deep. Because I think the teams think now, well, we can go. Rangers aren't playing well. We can go toe to toe with them. So that's how I think. Speed of thought, pace in the higher areas, and you can slip wee balls in the corners and get them running 1-on-1. But we don't seem to do that right now. We've got Kearney cuts inside and tries to create something, or Tav goes to the byline to put a cross in. As you say, what many assists or maybe chances created sometimes come down the left. I thought Berjami came on against Aberdeen, done okay out there. I thought he started the second half quite well. He wasn't very effective in the first half. Last night he came on, I think he runs down the line, and then doesn't put the cross in and tries to come back out because he's no natural on his left foot. We don't have a left-footed left winger.
I know. It really is.
That infuriates me. That really does. So we're expecting then our two full-backs to be our overlapping options. And then, Doug, you mentioned it earlier on, Tav goes down the right, puts the cross in, nobody gets it. They ping it from there over Jeffy's head to the left back, and everybody's screaming Jeffy's out of position. Or vice versa, Jeffy goes down one side, cross gets cut out, pinged over Tav, Tav's out of position. Well, let's blame the fullback. Has to stop at the manager at times. Where Warburton was the same. I remember when we first came back up when we had Tav and Wallace, we done the exact same thing. We signed Joey Barton, who was going to sit there and protect Philip Senderos. You know what I mean? But it didn't work. But we've had the same issues. See, if you go back over the last 4 or 5 years, nothing's changed. 6 years, it's the same areas you can get to, even under Gerrard, even though we were more sort of attack-minded. I would say under Gerrard, probably. I thought we played good football under Gerrard. Thought it was exciting. I thought you always looked as though you were going to score. There's times this season where I've not thought that. And as a Rangers team, that's no great.
Yep, there's not much I can disagree with there, to be honest with you. I feel as if it's maybe pass completion I'm worried about, is that it's been awful for Gerrard left.
Yeah.
In general, the team can't pass about each other. They were really, really bad with it under Gio. Really bad with it. And then the other two guys that came in after Gio were just long ball merchants, really, weren't they? It is what it is. So, there's no game this weekend. It's cup duties for the other 4 teams that are left in the competition. We're off, and we'll be back kind of post-split next week. We are currently, just now, Billy's interviewing Mark Mayoko again for a wee takeover update, so I'm hoping that's going to be released tonight or tomorrow. So keep your eye out for that on the channel. Doug, any closing comments? Thanks for coming on, mate.
Oh, always a pleasure, even during the less exciting times. I think the closing comment would probably just be mirroring what Mark said earlier. We're going into a period now, obviously, where we're going to be in post takeover soon. Looking to get a new manager, a new sporting director into place, and then going into a new window. So we need to, I think, take some of the time that we've got left. All but one game is totally meaningless. We've got an Old Firm, so you want to do the best we can in that. But the other ones, really don't mean all that much. So let's see some of the players that have been on the fringes. I think like Danilo's an important one. Let's say I'm a fan of his. I do think there's a player there. Let's give him some actual time. Because ultimately you've got 3 strikers. One of the things Mark said, was, do you want a young striker with potential, or a guy sitting there at 30 odd? The only thing I'd balance with that is he might be 31, but he's 31 and scoring 20 plus goals a season, which to me is still the balancing point, and that's why I don't think Dessers is still, for me, is a 100% sell. It's like probably an 85-90% sell, because we've got a younger player, and I do think Danilo has something to give us, but I do think we should give him the minutes that he's not been getting, so that we can see, right, is he actually will he show something? And also, can he stay fit for all 5 games as well? Because if he can't do that, then again, you're maybe pushing him towards the list of players that we need to get rid of because they just can't stay fit. I mentioned Sterling earlier. I absolutely love Dusan Sterling. Dusan Sterling's a great football player, immensely versatile, strong on the ball, good tackle, and at one point looked like was going to be the perfect new right back for us, but he's just not fit enough, often enough.
I know.
And he's now like hitting mid-20s. He's 25 now, so he should be in his prime, and he's still only getting 30 odd games, and they're not even full games. So that's the kind of thing I think we need to look at with the squad. There's certain players I think that are still that could still potentially offer something. You've got Bajrami there as well. We've paid a couple of million for him. He was a big signing. He's not really hit the ground this year. So again, give him all 5 games. Can we see a bit more? He has again. He's shown things in bits. So let's see. Can he work his way back into a little bit of form? Because if so, then again, he's someone I'd maybe give another year or two, give an opportunity to, because we're not going to be able to replace everybody. We can't replace, people want to replace most of the squad. I can't. I'm not sure if it was Dave or someone else. Someone put in a list. It was Dave. So suggested a goalkeeper, 2 centre backs, a left back, a right back, a number 6, a right wing, a left wing, and 2 number 9s. That's a great list. But we'll get half of that if we're lucky. So we're going to really need to, as I say, make a decision on who are the ones that we're going to give that year to. That's why I'm saying Jeffrey has shown enough that I still we should keep him and give him an extra year and bring someone in who can challenge him for the position. That was one of the things at the start of this season I was excited about, because I thought, we've got this exciting young Brazilian kid who was looking decent I've totally forgot the phrase. The matches before the season begins. Pre-season. That's it. Thank you. He was looking good in pre-season, bar a little mistake here or there. And then we had Yilmaz, who, as I say, I've always thought was a good player, just not fit enough. So I was hoping we were going to have a season where they were really going to fight it out for the position and get the best out of both of them. And we didn't really see that. Yilmaz continued to be injured, and so it was just Jeffrey. So you've got an obvious one there. You've got an obvious one there where you can, I think, sell Yilmaz. Well, I think we can still get a bit of money for him. Maybe not as much as we've spent, but I think we can still get a bit for him. So, bring him in and then bring us in and someone that can challenge. So let's do that for a lot of the fringe players. We talked about some of the young guys as well, Rice, Curtis, give them a shout. Enciala as well. I think he's looked bright. So, he could be someone who's fighting to be a starter next season. So again, give him some room, and that's I think what we should be looking to do for the rest of the season, because that's what I think the problem was in that game last night. We didn't have faith in the youth. If we had more faith in Ciala and just put him on, maybe things would have been slightly different, because we wouldn't have been so dishevelled. And that's an issue with the club as a whole. We don't have enough faith in youth. We only ever put them in when we're absolutely in dire need. That's the only reason that McCausland got a goal the last season. It's the only reason King got a goal a couple of seasons back. Let's have a bit more faith and maybe go, right, let's have a couple of young players and let's make them starters and make a go of it with them.
Aye, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Your squad review will be interesting anyway. That was a wee kind of mini squad review you've just gave us there, so that'll be good. Mark, thanks for coming on, mate. You got any closing thoughts?
No, nothing much, mate. Just the same as Doug. Echo Doug's thoughts, to be honest. Bailey Rice, Cortez, Finlay Curtis, Enciala, Danilo. Let's see what we've got.
Yep.
Let's see, do we need to rip up everybody next year, or can these boys go and get a wee bit of momentum? Many of them, if any of them, probably played maybe 5 games in a row, potentially. Possibly not. Maybe Enciala when there was a wee bit of injury. Rice certainly hasn't, and some of the others. So that's what I'd like to see from now to the end of the season. Let's try and finish it with something to look forward to going into the new season going, there is a player in him and a player in him, and then hopefully everything settles back down and we can get a good pre-season and a good summer, sort of all the areas that we need to try and fix. As I say, if we're going with Dave's list, we're signing 13 new players, so we'll be great next year, so we're okay. All good.
I'll take a sporting director and a manager first before we get tucked into signing players and get a takeover done and out of the way.
Yeah, I think that's massive, Scott. I think that's massive.
Definitely. Right, gents, that's us on the hour mark. We'll wrap up there. Thank you for joining me. This podcast was brought to you by offtothematchigo.co.uk. Scan the QR code on screen, head on over and see their stuff. It's pretty good. Use the code Journal10 for 10% off. Thursday nights are still Rangers nights in my opinion. I'm more than happy with the progression the squad's made in Europe this season. I think we need to remember that. I think we just came up against bad refereeing decisions and ultimately a team that were just better than us. We need to be brutally honest about it. They're fourth in La Liga. They're nae mugs. So well done to Rangers for making us dream, for letting us dream. We'll be back on. So the Mark Mayoko interview will get released over the weekend. We will be back on Monday night at 6:30. And apart from that, remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Good night.